You hate watch.
So how about this? Some realignment news, and maybe not the most exciting, but certainly some impacts here that we'll talk through. The Pac-12, the Pac-2 now becoming the Pac, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9-ish, right?
Well, 8 right now. They still need a 9 to become an actual conference. And the race to the finish line is on right now in the Pacific Northwest.
We're trying our best out there, okay? I've actually seen some pretty cool projections where it was like what they could do is they could have a Pac-12 West, a Pac-12 East, and then like add like the USF and Memphis and Tulane and stuff like that and just kind of have an 18-team conference and go both sides. I don't, if the ACC can go to the West Coast, then I guess why can't the Pac-12 come to the East Coast? But they add Boise State and others from the Mountain West and are on their way to, well, here's a question. You can give your thoughts on Boise State. The others added things like that, but I'll lob this up and whoever wants to take it can. Are they going to be, they're doing all this, but they're still going to be a group of 6 conference, right? Like they're not going to be it's not going to be the Power 5, right?
Tom, I'll let you handle this one first.
It doesn't feel like a Power 5 conference the way it's being assembled. Now, I'll say this. I'm glad to see the Pac-12 rebuilding itself as someone who enjoyed the Pac-12 as it was for many, many years. Pac-12 after dark, this guy was staying up late for all those games. So I loved it. To see these teams added, all of these teams make sense. Like if you were going to attempt to add teams that were regionally in the Pac-12 now or something like that, it would make a lot of sense that you would add Boise State, et cetera. Hell, when I've played college football 25, the first thing I've done is add Boise State to the Pac-12 because I'm like, oh, I feel like Boise State should be in a Power 4 conference, Power 5, whatever it is you want to call it. But the Pac-12 doesn't feel like a Power 5 conference anymore, and that's the challenge. So I sincerely hope that this conference gets back to where it was, but I think the additions make a lot of sense. Can they take advantage of the San Diego market with San Diego State? Part of me doesn't think like that program's really going to do anything crazy. Getting Fresno State makes a lot of sense. Fresno State consistently is putting out products into the National Football League. Boise State leading the way. Colorado State obviously being pretty well detached from Colorado. I believe they still play each other in their rivalry game. I don't know if this is going to affect any of that. You never know with conference realignment. So I think it's a step in the right direction, but it doesn't feel like a powerful conference yet. They could get there, but not right now.
So, for starters, I'm very in agreement with Tom on this one. We get the Pac-12 back, and nobody's going to be complaining about this. I am a sicko that watches Mountain West football on CBS Sports Network at 1:30 in the morning, and I'm fully invested in what's going on with San Jose State versus Air Force. Like, I'm fully that dude, and I'm always going to be that dude. So the fact that we get Pac-12 After Dark, and despite it now having more of a, it's a spin-off series. Like, when Hulu comes out with all of their TV shows of King of the Hill and Futurama, it's not the same, but it still is that comfort level. Like, that's what I got in this new version of the Pac-12. And I'm cool with that as long as they're able to get that 19 to add on in. And I think there's a lot of ways that can go about it. I don't think that they are ready to claim that they are a Power 5 conference. Far from it, in my opinion. But what I will say is that they should be, until further notice, especially if they're able to land someone like a Memphis and a Tulane or a Texas State for that matter. Maybe you get UNLV to kind of punch their ticket in. They should be every single year the favorite to get the automatic qualifier for the group of 5 level. And the numbers back that up as well. This is from Pac-12's Instagram page after the announcement was made that Fresno State, Colorado State, San Diego State, Utah State, and Boise State were going to be joining. They're currently 3rd when looking at the new teams in overall record among winning percentages in conferences. They currently are 5th out of 7th in teams ranked in the college football top 25 over the last 4 years. In the AP top 25, they would have had 6 of 7 teams ranked at least for 3 weeks or longer during the last 4-year span. On top of that, in the last 4 seasons, their Sportsbook Analytics Team Conference ranks 5th among all power conferences with an average of 68. The Sports Source Team at Success ranks 5th with a 44.9 average rating. Their average FPI ranking is 5th behind the other Power 4 conferences at 74, ahead of the Sun Belt and ahead of the American. And their average SP Plus rankings is 5th in the exact same spot at a 71, ahead of the Sun Belt and the American ranking. So they have a good foundation. They do have the team that in the first ever 12-team college football playoff represented the group of 5 level. And it's very shocking that Nevada doesn't want to go ahead and join forces with UNLV so that way they can hightail it on out of the Mountain West, but they're staying loyal to that conference. I truly believe that if you were just to take the Mountain West, maybe add in a few other teams, Memphis, UTSA, Texas State, get more to that Texas vicinity, the San Antonio market, there's an opportunity for you to really kind of plant your flag as, hey, we know that we're the last team that's going to be considered, but you sure as hell are going to at least throw us in that realm of, hey, maybe we will have a second team make the jump. Maybe we could have that extra at-large bid. Because of the way that these teams have been recruiting, the way that we talk about going into this year with the Mountain West, whether it be UNLV, you throw in a Boise State, I'm very high on what we're going to see from Colorado State this year. I think Fresno State made a great hire in Matt Entz. I love Sean Lewis out of San Diego State. Bronco Mendenhall, I think, is going to get back to the Beehive State and do wonders for Utah State. There's a lot to like about what the new Pac-12 is forming. Not so much to where, yes, they get 2 automatic teams, but they certainly should be the favorite to get the group of 5 automatic qualifier every single year, no questions asked.
What's it mean for Washington State and Oregon State? Washington State been absolutely rated. Coach gone, quarterback gone the last 2 years. They're man, I'm not trying to belittle them, but they're essentially a farm system to just send out the best quarterback transfer out every year. They've been rated, and it'll take some time. Oregon State there as well. Does this give them a chance to maybe have a leg up on the teams coming in? And you talk about a team, teams getting that AQ. You got to like Boise a lot if they get to a point where they've got enough teams to potentially get an automatic qualifier. Does this help Oregon State, Washington State to maybe have a leg up on some of these teams and pick up some wins at least early in this marriage?
Well, I think the next 2 years are going to be the most critical for that because if you have to be able to recruit, you have to feel like that Jimmy Rogers, who comes on in from the FCS level, is going to be able to build a foundation out in Pullman and retain a lot of players, and also see that development of the young guys that maybe weren't good enough to play at Alabama, but they sure as hell were good enough to play at San Jose State or San Diego State. They absolutely could be worth a Power 4 conversation, even as a depth piece, and certainly a group of 5 starter. So if they can do those things, like the way that I've seen Trent Bray go embrace the NIL and make a move to go bring in Malik Murphy, like if he's able to establish that type of culture this year to where we absolutely are seeing the Beavers really look more so like that 8-4 Jonathan Smith-led roster that was always underrated, down but never out, then yeah, they can. But Boise, I think, is investing a lot of money. I think that Colorado State is going to now feel like that they have to be players in the NIL market. I love what Fort Collins is. I love Jay Norvell as a coach. I think at Utah State, with what the regulations are out in Utah for NIL funds, if they want to spend money on the football program, they have the resources and a coach that has proven time and time again, whether it be at Virginia and BYU, New Mexico even last year. Bronco Mendenhall is a good coach and knows how to land the right players and develop the right players. So I don't think it's at that level, but here's what I will say, and this is the biggest one of all. Last season, we didn't know what to do with Oregon State and Washington State. Washington State was a top 15 offense at times. They had 2 stellar wide receivers. John Mateer was so well liked. Many people thought he was the best transfer portal quarterback on the market. But we said, are they a group of 5 school? Are they going to have to be in that at-large range? At least now they have a home. Now we can sit down and say, you're representing a conference that people are paying attention to, a conference that features eventual players that are either going to be going to major schools like the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC, and the Big 10, or players that are going to put this location on the market to where you're going to see a lot of 4 stars and a lot of 3 stars that don't want to be depth pieces in this world of NIL and in this world of instant gratification. Hey, I can live out in Boise for 2 years. I can throw up 1,000 yards rushing. I can throw up 1,000 yards as a receiver in Pullman. Corvallis seems like a good place for me to go ahead and get a couple of pick sixes. Like that's what we get out of this for Oregon State and Washington State. They stayed lower to their conference, and now the conference is rewarding them by adding in teams.
I think initially in 2026, you absolutely look at Oregon State, Washington State, and Boise State as your three potential favorites. So that's a fun competition at the top of this new league once it gets all put together. The thing that we are going to have to mourn for those of us that are junkies and sickos and watch this is that the Mountain West Conference is going to look very, very different after this coming season. You'll have Air Force, Nevada, UNLV, New Mexico, San Jose State, and Wyoming. So all of a sudden, that's the victim in all this. What happens to the Mountain West Conference? Are we going to start to see these group of 5, group of 6 conferences completely dissolve altogether? And TJ, I know you talked about it, and they're like, all right, the ACC went and grabbed Cal and Stanford. It still feels sacrilegious in my mind because it's the Atlantic Coast Conference, and it's like the branding stuff drives me insane. So it's like, oh, the Pac-12 is like, well, we should grab Memphis and South Florida. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, just rebrand these, give them something. If the Pac-12 is dead, give them a name that is going to be new and fresh. Put the coat of paint on it that you want to be reflected going into the future. That's something that always bothers me.
Crap. Make the Mountain West just the Pac-12 at this point. I know they're not going, but just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pac Mountain. Let's go Pac Mountain. What about this? This is an absolute wild card, about 45 minutes early. But I've seen some stuff about an ACC Big 12 merger. I actually just did a video on that yesterday, and don't think it makes a lot of sense. I think it makes a lot of sense for the ACC once some of their premier teams are potentially gone. But I don't know that it makes a lot of sense for the Big 12 to just get all the leftovers. I think the Big 12 would probably be smarter to, I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. But for the Big 12 to just kind of pick off the teams that they think make the most sense, like a Louisville or a Pitt or Georgia Tech or NC State, Virginia Tech. Grab 4 or 5 teams that get you up to the 20-ish number and not necessarily bring on the Syracuse and Boston College and Wake Forest and stuff like that. But if 3 or 4 teams go to the Big 10, 3 or 4 teams go to the SEC, 3 or 4 teams go to the, that might be a little bit of an overshoot. So let's say 2 each go to the Big 10, SEC, and Big 12. With what you're left over with, would an ACC Pac-12 merger make sense? If you were going to go West Coast, why? I don't know how much it benefits the ACC other than travel reasons for Cal and Stanford. But would a Cal, Stanford, Wake, Syracuse, Boston College, kind of very northeast vibe, coastal vibe make sense with the Pac-12? 5-6 years away from something like this. Everybody else, all the good teams would have to be scooped up. But would that almost make more sense than adding? And if you're the ACC at that point, what are you doing when Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia, all these teams are gone? The Big 12 raids a couple. Does that make a little more sense than either of these partial conferences fighting over Memphis and Tulane?
I think it makes them way more attractive to getting good television deals, because if you're in a situation where it's like, the Big 12, we're just going to sit tight. The ACC, we're just going to sit tight. The ACC has more bargaining power because you have Clemson, you have Florida State. You can even throw North Carolina and Duke in there for the sake of basketball. Those are big bargaining chips that the Big 12 doesn't really have. So you could say the Big 12 might need the ACC in this situation. I think the Big 10 laid out the roadmap for the future of college football, and that they went and got 4 teams from the ill-fated Pac-12 in Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington. So they made themselves a national conference and not just a regional conference. I know I just got done saying, that frustrates me from a branding standpoint, but they've been able to be successful with it. The SEC seems like at least the last regional conference that you might see in college football. If the Big 12 and the ACC actually combine forces, scrap the name, come up with something completely different, and now you make yourself extremely valuable to individual television markets, that it's like, hey, say there's a super conference years from now of the SEC and the Big 10. Well, we'd like our own super conference. It's like, great, we have a nationwide super conference that is going to be able to come in second, probably won't compete really in the grand scheme of things with the SEC and the Big 10, but it's a lot more attractive.
TJ, let me ask you out of curiosity, which of the teams that would leave the ACC in 2031 when their immediate rights contract is currently up for debate?
I mean, I think Florida State, Clemson, UNC all go. I think Miami goes. Okay. I feel really confident about those 4.
You think they take Duke, right? Because of the UNC Duke rivalry?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
that's where Texas, Oklahoma. Like it's almost a package deal.
So, but what I will say is, the package deal might actually have to be NC State.
Okay.
Because of the I mean, we'll see how things shake out, but because of the legislature there and controlling the state schools, Duke can kind of move freely if they want or are wanted. NC State might be a little more tied to them, so that might be who does have to go. And I don't know that a conference would. I don't know that a conference would be able to take all three if they were going after the Clemson's, Florida States, Miami's, teams like that. It feels like Louisville, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech would be Big 12 desired, right? If they were trying to get up to 20, some combination of maybe two of those. So I think that would probably be my list. Like the teams that I don't think, again, no slight towards the teams that I don't know that are like super wanted would be like your Wake Forest. I don't, maybe SMU, if they go on a run, would be wanted by the Big 12, but I don't feel like they're in that category right now. Syracuse, BC, others, kind of in that Cal, Stanford,
Sure.
I don't know that those are super wanted.
So let's do this. Let's just say that Cal and Stanford, they go reunite with the Pac-12. Welcome back. We are not going to shame you anymore. We're going to say you're welcome here because we're a fun conference. Let's just say that Duke wants to go join the Big Ten with everybody else. There's a way to do it, but you got to kick somebody out. So how about we kick out Rutgers? Makes no sense for them to be there anyway. So we'll just throw them out and they'll just go hang out in what's going to be the new version of the ACC. Miami's going to be gone, but you know what? We could find a way to replace them with Virginia. The Big 12, maybe they care more about adding in a Stanford and adding in a Cal because it's closer to them. So they got to kick out two teams. Who's on the top of my head? I don't know. Maybe we'll just throw out West Virginia and Cincinnati. That would make a lot of sense. And so afterwards, now we're left with this new conference of teams that are known as Virginia Tech and Boston College, and West Virginia needs a home, and Rutgers needs a home, Pitt needs a home. Louisville is probably going to want to stay close to region. Cincinnati needs a home. Wait a minute, guys. Why don't we just reform the Big East in college football and create that conference again? Because that was a fun conference that was taken away from us. UConn needs a home. South Florida wants to get back into a different conference level. And therefore, full circle moment, the Big 12, you can say whatever you want. It's not like it really matters. You're only going to get one team in the college football playoff anyways most years. I digress and don't care what anybody has to say about that one. But still, maybe we can add in the Big East region. The Big East comes back to college football. I have solved the solution right here and right now. When the ACC is dissolved, just dissolve the conference in general. Get rid of those West Coast teams. Welcome back in the backyard brawl with Pitt and West Virginia. Welcome back in Cincinnati. Louisville, you were always welcome here. Congratulations. The Big East is back on your television screens this Saturday. And the Pac-12 is too. We are inching closer, boys, to college football being back in the right frame of mind. Just give me the Southwest Conference and give me the Big 8, and all things are going according to plan.
Can I send Miami up to the Big East too while we're doing it?
They got it. No, they got to go to the SEC. They're already paid out. You get Virginia instead in Wake Forest.
All right.